Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is September 9th, 2018. I wanted to give you a quick update here on this Sunday evening. First, we'll do a little space weather update. Take a look at our solar wind speeds right now, currently at 407.6 kilometers per second with a very low density of 3.1. And today we have a disruption. Last night we were talking about watching the middle area here on the sun for development for a sunspot, and sure enough we have AR 2721. However, forecasters are saying that this is a typical minimum type sunspot, very quiet, not very active right now. If anything, very brief in its life, as well as it's not expected to stick around for very long. But right now we do have it as a named sunspot, AR 2721. And looking at more stats, now that broke a 10-day stretch. That's sunspot number 16 as well. But we had a 10-day stretch without spots. It gave us 141 days without sunspots. Take a look at our KP indices. We're sitting at a 2, and our 24-hour max is also at a 2. And we already showed you the SDO in motion. This is the area right here that we will see increased solar wind speeds, as well as a chance for some low-level geomagnetic storm activity. And looking out to the eastern limb of the sun right now, we don't see anything in too much to watch at this point. But like I said, we'll keep our eyes on that. And so far, nothing really serious to be concerned about with this solar storm that's coming on the 11th or the 12th. Probably more likely the 12th. Looking at our TSI for September 1st, 2018, the reading came in at 1360.752, so a little bit of an increase. And let's take a look at our current radar before we get into our chat about Florence and other storms that we are witnessing right now. I spoke about it last night, the rain in Cleveland. Thankfully, it didn't appear to be as torrential as once would have believed. But it did rain, however, all day. Also, notice in Baltimore, they were receiving rain all day during their game as well. And right now, we've got a line of storms leading up through the Tennessee Valley, Tennessee and Kentucky, West Virginia. Now Pennsylvania starting to see more rainfall, and Pittsburgh is due to get somewhere over 4 inches of rain here for tonight through tomorrow morning, and possibly a little bit beyond. But looking at storms and showers coming all the way from Texas, racing up to the northeast. Kind of quiet in Florida right now. Some showers and thunderstorms in New Mexico. A system, a very small one, out in North Dakota. And really not too much going on now over here in the northwest. We do have some showers and thunderstorms near Vancouver and Victoria. But other than that, guys, pretty quiet as far as the lower 48 are concerned. But the big news is, of course, Hurricane Florence. Right now it's a Category 1. Winds are at 85 miles per hour. It's moving at about 7 miles to the west right now. And the pressure is 975 millibars as well. Now, so last night we showed you the track, the worst case scenario. And today, this is the updated version of what our storm Florence is going to do. And as we see it approach by the end of the week, Thursday into Friday, North Carolina, the one thing that we see in as far as what we saw last night is that this storm is appearing that it's going to stall out. Now, the good news is, if there is any good news, this looks like it's staying up north. So South Carolina might be spared altogether. Whereas last night we were looking at this, this storm was dancing up and down the East Coast. So I'll stomach that back in from the Atlantic. Here we are on Friday into Saturday, kind of stalling out. And then this model has our system moving up to the northeast a little quicker. So there's another bit of good news. We're not going to be watching this storm sitting here for 4 days. This storm actually gets moving by the 17th. Instead of the 18th. So we're 1 day quicker on this current model. And then as we look at Monday into Tuesday, now we don't see as intense of a rainstorm here coming into Philadelphia and Jersey and New York City possibly. But just as it leaves the coast, it does intensify once again, and it is carried off into the Atlantic. And then followed by another system that's going to drench that area once again after seeing it. Now, I guess the question remains, we're so far away from this storm, is how much rain to expect from this storm right here. Of course, we don't even know its exact track, but I think a lot of people now are in agreement that this storm is definitely heading towards it's going to make impact at some point on Thursday or Friday, maybe early Saturday morning. The biggest thing is how long this high pressure system hangs out in the Atlantic that allows this storm to just kind of churn right off the coast of North Carolina into Virginia. You see that? That's the high pressure system that's controlling everything here. And then as we move forward, another thing that I wanted to talk about too is Isaac. We're still seeing the other tropical wave continue to flow away with Florence once she leaves, but it is worth noting that the National Hurricane Center is making a track now on this, and it's an advisory, but the track for this storm right now, let's get that up in view for you guys. They've got Isaac heading in this direction right now. It's way too early. We all know when Florence was in this location, we weren't too sure if it was even going to come close to landfall, but this track is a little bit different for Isaac. And then we have Helene as well, but Helene looks like it will go off into the sea once Florence leaves the shores of our East Coast. And right here is Helene at this point. So it doesn't look like we're going to have a double threat. That invest storm that was ahead of Florence does get absorbed as well by Florence. And again, the good news is that it looks like for the time being, into the near future, after Florence, we're just looking at normal shower activity in the tropics. But so we've got Florence on the East Coast, Isaac heading to the Caribbean, and now we have a situation in the Gulf. And let's go to Mike's weather page here. Great source for information on radars and all kinds of good stuff here. Let's take a look at why they're so concerned at this storm here in the Caribbean. If I can find it, here we go. So it's this action that we're watching down here. Let me get the pointer out. This area right here is what they are watching that could be a potential development into the Gulf. So we got Florence here, which, by the way, Florence looks pretty strong as a Cat 1 right now, and it's going to continue to gain strength because it is treading into warmer waters as well. But we have Isaac heading to the Caribbean. We have Florence to deal with on the East Coast, and possibly now we have Texas. Houston area might have to worry about a tropical storm at least. Maybe, maybe not. But they are calling for a 20% chance of formation in the next 5 days. The combination of an upper level trough and a tropical wave over the northwestern Caribbean Sea is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms between Cuba and Honduras. Upper level winds could become somewhat more conductive for development when the system moves into the Gulf in the next couple of days, while the system moves slowly west, northwest, or northwestern. So, again, it's a low percentage here in the next 5 days for formation, but it's definitely something we want to keep a look at. So right now we have a hurricane, a tropical storm watch, and a hurricane. Tropical storm watch, and of course hurricane. Isaac is near hurricane strength at this point too as well. But which ones do we have to worry about? And right now, the biggest focus is going to be on Florence, obviously. Next, Isaac, we are looking at somewhere in this region. Plus, we have the Gulf. And could this be a 1-2 punch here? Could Isaac creep up into the Gulf as well? So things are definitely getting a little interesting here. But I think Florence will take Helene with her when she exits the East Coast. That's just my guess. That's what I've been kind of noticing on some of the trends when I look at the models. But that would be my guess, and I'll show you right here what I'm trying to talk about. Here's Florence making landfall next weekend, and you see Helene kind of gets a huge jump. It almost gets in front of Florence before it's time to leave the area. Once again, I think once Florence leaves the United States, Helene becomes a non-threat anyway, but definitely will not combine with this system, so that's a little bit of good news as well. We're still about 5-6 days out from all this coming to fruition, so I think that's why there's a lot more people that are kind of broadcasting in more confidence of what's going to happen over the next few days. But I think last night's show was appropriate in warning the folks on the East Coast. We had said from South Carolina to the northeastern parts of Boston, even New England area. Right now, it's safe to say that the Carolinas will definitely be affected by this. I read one report today that some huge waves are possible with Florence. So we're going to have to deal with the possibility. Also saw another meteorologist today from Weather Nation who thinks that there's a high chance that stalling will happen in the storm. For how long, we don't know. But according to the GFS models, it looks like it's at least 2 to 3 days where it stalls over northern North Carolina before it finally takes off out of the decision. So we have to look at a couple different factors: coastal flooding, beach erosion, and of course inland Maine flooding as well throughout the neighborhoods. Also, we have crops that were ordered to be harvested ASAP this week, that travel regulations will be lifted to help farmers pull their crops as soon as possible. And good job by that state once again for administering these warnings. Plenty of time. It may not be enough time, but the quicker they acted, the better they thought they had a chance of saving as much crops as possible. So again, we just wanted to do a quick little update on the hurricane situation, and the Gulf also looking like it's getting ready to start to heat up as well. We've got one storm to watch, and possibly Isaac could creep up if it continues to hold up like it has over the last couple of days. Looking at some SST anomaly temperatures, here we have the East Tropical Atlantic. It's been dropping today. It went up just a little bit to negative 658. El Nino has seen a bit of an incline after declining for a while now. They are above that threshold, or just at that threshold of 0.245. Remember, we need to be at 0.25 for it to be considered near El Nino conditions, and we just haven't seen that consistency yet to believe that El Nino is possible, or at best maybe a Modaki El Nino. And looking at the North Atlantic, still on the decline, just right at the negative 0.5 mark Celsius below baseline. But we have seen the North Atlantic go up and down all summer long and still continues to cool. And that's really all we had for tonight. I just wanted to do a quick update on Florence and just make sure everyone's aware of the situation, that the East Coast is definitely going to see some action. North Carolina, Virginia, Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York City. I still think those areas need to be paying attention the most right now and start coming up with a plan. Hopefully we could help as well if we can find a website that will point out directions for people to maybe go to a shelter that's a couple 100 miles away from the coast. I know not everybody out there has the funds to just say, hey, okay, kids, pack a bag. Let's go to the hotel this weekend. And, you know, wherever central North Carolina or central South Carolina, it's not that easy. So I think that's one thing we'll look for this week, and hopefully we can find some resources for people who maybe not have the means to just get up and go. And maybe there's centers out there that will be opening up for shelter during this storm. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Mari, did you have anything you'd like to add as far as? Not really? All right. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. Again, this has just been a little update about these tropical storms and the Hurricane Florence. We will be on tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with our regular program. All right, guys, we'll talk soon.